Some breaking business news. After 122 years, U.S. Steel, the company that helped build some of America's most iconic structures from the Superdome to the Bay Bridge, sold to Japan's Nippon Steel at auction for $14.9 billion. And with steel demand expected to increase, company stock jumped a whopping 26% in one day. The industry giant will remain in Pittsburgh under the same name, but many changes are expected. Here to react, Texas Public Policy Foundation Vice President Chuck DeVore. Chuck, morning to you.
Good morning, Steve.
Is this a sad day? U.S. Steel no longer owned by a U.S. company?
Well, it certainly is a sad day. At one point in time, U.S. Steel was the largest corporation in the world. But things change, and the use of steel as a share of the economy has declined. There are plenty of companies that are hundreds of times larger than U.S. Steel. And it's important to understand that Japan today is an ally. This isn't 1941. Nippon Steel has a lot of innovation and technology that they can bring to help improve the quality and competitiveness of the product coming out of U.S. Steel. It'll still be in America. It'll still be made by Americans. But, of course, it is a sad day. One last thing, Steve. If you want to prevent these things from happening, we need to change some of our tax code and allow for immediate expensing of major capital investments. And we also need to stop spending so much money on our massive federal deficits and on our huge trade deficit, because eventually these sort of things have to happen to balance out the dollars.
Yeah. Chuck, stop making sense, okay? Senator John Fetterman from the great state of Pennsylvania, where it will continue to be helmed and housed, said this: the acquisition of U.S. Steel by a foreign company is wrong for workers and wrong for Pennsylvania. I'm going to do everything I can to block it. Is he right?
I don't think so. If you look at history, it was a huge U.S. Steel strike throughout the entire sector in the late 1950s that first caused the Detroit automakers to turn to steel manufactured in both Japan and Germany. And that marked the long, slow downfall of the dominance of America's steel industry. So all I believe that Senator Fetterman is proposing is more of the same failed policies.
All right, let's switch gears and talk a little bit about what's going on in the Mideast. We understand that BP, British Petroleum, has stopped sailing tankers through the Red Sea because of attacks by the Iranian proxy forces, the Houthi rebels. Take a look right here. The shipping paused or limited from all of those companies. That's going to impact our prices, right?
Yeah, this is a form of warfare, and we saw this once before in the 1980s when you had the Iran-Iraq war. You had what was called the tanker war. And what was happening is Iran was seeking to drive up the insurance rates, because if you can't have insurance for these vastly expensive tankers, you're not going to sail where you don't have insurance. And so let there be no mistake, what we're seeing right now is the Houthi rebels are a proxy of the Islamic Republic of Iran. They're using weaponry supplied by the People's Republic of China. And our response has been underwhelming, which is why it keeps happening, Steve. One last important thing is, unless we go to the source and do like we did in 1988 with Operation Praying Mantis, which I was a part of the planning of the year before in the Reagan administration, unless we go to the source and exact pressure directly on Iran, this will continue. Now, I think it's important that your viewers understand that Iran has a communications command control and intelligence ship in the Red Sea right now that is coordinating these illegal attacks against international shipping. Why is that ship allowed to sail and put our own sailors and our allies' sailors in harm's way? Why are we continuing to soft pedal this? So I'll tell you why. The Biden administration doesn't want the cost of oil to shoot through the roof, because if you think his poll numbers are bad now, wait until the price of oil goes north of $100 a barrel.
Yeah, stay tuned for that. Chuck, I had no idea you were involved in Operation Praying Mantis.
Yes, I was. We did 2 war games in the basement of the Pentagon for about a week. And what was fascinating is the response that we ended up doing in our war game ended up with 50 casualties. The soft pedal response that you're seeing from the Biden administration right now ended up with 1,500 casualties during our simulation.
All right, something to think about, sobering ideas.